If you don't tattoo for a living, this video isn't for you. But if you do, I have this gift for you that you can download via the link. It's gonna change everything because tattooing is art with no eraser. We stencil it on and we let her rip and hope for the best. But wouldn't it be better if we could mock it up beforehand? Wouldn't it be better if we could see all the colors and values before that needle hits your client's skin? We all love drawing and painting, but if you're serving 2 to 3 clients in a single day, how much time is really left for all that prep? Eventually, that time crunch starts hurting the quality of your designs. Do you really want your client saying,
"Is it supposed to look like that?"
Your reputation could be lost in a single moment. I used to have all these problems until I learned the one skill that changed everything for me. I learned how to use Procreate to fully color in all my digital outlines with lightning speed. No more layers of tracing paper, no more heavy reference books, no more dried up microns. It's all in my hand. My name's Russ Abbott, and I've been tattooing for 27 years. And I've been fully rendering my designs digitally for the past decade. My clients love my workflow and I have their trust. There's absolutely no way I'd be able to do the quality of work I do without these skills. And I'm going to teach you these skills and give you the tools that you need absolutely free. I'm gonna put you on some free game. You may be thinking, I already know Procreate, but I'm here to tell you, you're only on level 1. I'm sure you've seen a ton of generic Procreate tutorials on YouTube, but I'm telling you that this workflow is specifically about tattoo design and getting to results in the fastest way possible. One artist from New York City said,
"I really appreciated the in-depth demonstrations and how easy Russ made it to understand each step of the process."
Another artist from Charlotte said,
"Learning how to do this is going to be a game changer for me. I'm super stoked to start doing it with my designs."
Everything you need is in these 5 free downloadable files that I bundled together. They get increasingly more mind-blowing. First, you need some art. You could draw your own, but we're gonna give you some really fun flash stamps that will get you started with some outlines on the screen. Second, I'm gonna give you my daily brush kit that I use to outline, render, and shade my designs. Next, we're throwing in some color palettes for gray values and skin tones. And here's where it gets really crazy. We're giving you an actual 3D model human arm so you can design a full sleeve. And finally, I'm gonna teach you my time-saving Procreate workflow in only 30 minutes. Now listen, you gotta click the button and it's gonna take you to the page where you can download free game. You've got to add it to your cart and check out. But don't worry, it's really free. Then install the brush files, color palettes, and 3D model files into Procreate and watch the included video to learn my game-changing workflow. Trust me, this is going to be worth it. Click the link. It's time to get started. Now, you'll want to get the files first, so just log in at TattooSmart and search for free game. I'll put the link in the description. Once you downloaded free game, then you just install the files in Procreate and head back here and continue watching this video. Okay, I'll wait. Seriously, I'm waiting. Okay, you're back and you've got your files. Now let's install the files and then jump into the tutorial. Listen, you're currently in the 99% of most tattoo artists. And if you could right now just set 30 minutes aside, I'm gonna tell you a workflow that I've been teasing out in the last 30 seconds that I promise that you're gonna remember for the next 10 years. I'm going to unlock the real free game, utilizing the 5 files you just installed. This is my personal workflow in Procreate. And once you have the skills I'm about to teach, you'll be in that 1% where you belong. Let's dive in. So here we are, we purchased free game and it was free. And now I'll just go to my account and this is where all of my previously purchased items from TattooSmart are. And here it is right at the top. So you just click this button that says download. And here's all the files. We have to download each file individually. When you click on it, you just also click download and then watch up here and you can see that that file has downloaded. I'll just click back and click download again. Grab the second file, download, watch it, hit the back button, click download, just keep going until all these files are downloaded. And then one by one, I'll tap each file, it will import into Procreate, swipe up, go back, tap the next file, swipe up, go back, tap the next file, swipe up, go back, next file, swipe up, go back, and final file. Great. So here I am in Procreate, and I'm going to start a new document by tapping that plus sign and then tap here to make a new canvas. I'll go with 8 by 10 inches, so switch pixels to inches and then type 8 and then type 10. I always want to make sure that here under DPI, we're at 300. So if yours doesn't say 300, change that to 300. That's going to ensure that you have enough high resolution detail in the design that you're going to make. And then tap Create. So here we are with a blank 8 by 10 canvas at 300 DPI. And so let's go ahead and see where these files are. So first we'll look for brush sets. There's 2 brush set files that you got. The first is going to say RA brush kit. And these are all of the brushes that I use on a daily basis just to outline and render my designs. There's a lot of other fancy brushes that I love to use, but these are some of the essentials and I'm giving them to you absolutely free. And then also you're going to have this brush set called Free Game. And this is the Build Your Own Wolpertinger kit that includes all of the heads, midsections, and torsos that you need to create a weird creature. We're giving you this weird flash stamp set so that you can go ahead and put something fun on the canvas. But if you want to draw your own design for this process, you're welcome to do that as well. I'll show you how it works. And let's go see where we installed the palettes. So tap here, and it usually looks like this when you open it up. But if you tap the button that says Palettes, you'll see that you have all of your previously saved palettes. You may not have any yet, but the new ones that you just got are going to be here. You've got the Tattoo Smart Gray Values and the Tattoo Smart Skin Tones palette. So you should see those right there. Now let's go find out where that 3D model arm landed. So tap Gallery, and you'll see right here you have the 3D model. So if you tap it, open it up, it's all there, and you can actually add your tattoo designs onto this model, and I'll show you how to do that later. So now that we have all the files installed, I'll show you how to actually put them to use. So I'm going to open up this 8 by 10 canvas and go over here to the Layers palette and make sure that I've got black selected as my color. We do. I'll head into the RA brush kit and just start checking out the brushes that are here. Now, the first one here is called Use This to Sketch, and that's what I do with it. I use it to sketch. You can change the size. It gets smaller, it gets bigger. You can turn it on its side. It does cool stuff. That's a great tool just for laying out your design. So after that, you've got locked in liner sizes. So this one called Fine Liner is a very, very fine line. That's about as thin of a line as I would ever use in a tattoo design. But the thing is, if you change the size, it doesn't change because the line size is actually locked in on this. The reason you want to have your liner sizes locked in is because you can always refer back to these exact sizes later. Whether it's this drawing or another drawing, you'll always have exactly the same sizes. And this is going to relate to the size of needle that you might use. So for example, this fine liner, that could be like a tight 3 line. And then this small liner, maybe that's more like a tight 5. Mid liner, maybe that's like a 7 liner. Bold liner, loose 9. Here's one called Fat Liner, and they just get bigger and bigger all the way to Heavy Liner. So these are 6 different line weights that are locked in, and you can always get back to that exact size. Another reason you might like these lines is because they've got a good amount of streamline, but not so much that it totally takes away every little bit of wobble in your hand. Like if I want to wobble, I can. So this is going to help you when you're doing your lines because it just kind of smooths things out and makes it easier to make a clean line easily. And then we have these noise shaders. So these are really fun, and I use these to add a little bit of detail to my stencils a lot of times, because when I use these, they're pressure sensitive first of all, so a light touch is going to make a tiny little bit of grain, and if I press harder, it gets darker and darker and darker. So if you've ever wanted to make a tattoo stencil that shows a little bit of, say like an area of shading in the stencil, but you're worried that it wouldn't print clean in your stencil, this is a great tool because it's just a really pure grain that you can play around with. So there's 2 different options for that. There's the bold version, just a little bit more simple texture. And then we've included the Magic Spit Shader. Now, this is one of the brushes from my larger set called the Spit Shade set. And I really love this brush because it just creates that spit shaded watercolor look pretty quickly. At the very edge, you have this grain sort of bleeding into the paper like ink does on paper. And so this is just a really fun alternative to like an airbrush. If you switch to the smudge tool and then choose this next brush that actually says set to smudge, it's called a running blend. This brush will do this. It just blends out from any ink that you've already applied, and it gets lighter and lighter and lighter. So that's super useful. Play around with that. And then finally, we have a grainy soft brush. It was basically just an airbrush with a little bit of grain on the edge. Use that for rendering. And then you have the soft brush, which is the really soft airbrush that you're probably already used to. And these are just my daily tools, and you can get so much mileage out of this brush set alone. So I hope you enjoy it. All right, now that we've covered the brushes and the color palettes and the 3D model that are included in free game, let's get into this process. The point of my entire design process and my philosophy about digital tattoo design is that as a tattoo artist, I need to get to work as fast as possible. But I don't want to just start with only a line drawing, because when I don't do a value study and I don't do a color study, I end up just kind of trying to figure it out on the skin, and my client doesn't know what it's going to look like, and honestly, sometimes I don't know what it's going to look like. So there's a little bit of a risk in that, obviously. And if you're a professional tattoo artist, you know that sometimes you're just under the gun and the client is waiting in the lobby and you have to get to work because they had an appointment and you've got another appointment. So this process is not about doing the world's nicest digital art or digital painting. It's really about how can I get all of the work done that I need to do an excellent job on the tattoo without taking too much time. So maybe a good place to start is just by getting some art onto the screen. And for that, I'll go back to the Build Your Own Wolpertinger set. I'm just gonna scan through here and get a few little parts to make a character. I'm thinking of using the woman's head. And so we're on a new layer here, and we'll just tap the screen and the line art from the woman's head appears. Now, I don't want it to be in the center of the screen, so I'll just grab this tool here and make sure it's set to uniform, which it is, and then I can just move her. So we'll put the head at the top, and then I'll make a new layer, and I'll go grab a torso. So I'm thinking skeleton torso. That's cool. Just move that right into place and just sort of line it up with the lines that are already there. This kit is really fun. You can make a lot of different weird creatures using it. Looks pretty good. And a new layer. And I was thinking fishtail. So now she's like a mermaid. Is there enough room? Yeah, that'll work. Okay. So now we've got the line drawings all in different layers. I can just go ahead and pinch these layers together just like that, and now they're all in the same layer. I'll tap the transform tool, make it a little bit smaller. The thing about my process is that we're going to make a lot of selections within our line drawing. So if your line drawing ever has little gaps in it, it can really be a problem. So like a gap like this one is not going to allow me to select inside of it. Let's just test that real quick. So say I want to use the selection tool, and I'll tap automatic. And as you can see, we jumped outside of the lines. And that's not gonna help very much with this process. When I'm making my line drawings, I always wanna make sure that I close off all of these little gaps like this. So that's what we're going to do now. I'll just go ahead and find a brush. Let's go with maybe the mid liner. It looks like about the right size. All right, so I'm just gonna go through here, and I won't make you guys watch me make this perfect line drawing or anything. I think that you get the idea. We're just going to connect these lines and close things off. Let's test and see if we got all those. So once you've got all those tiny gaps closed off in your line drawing and you're really happy that you've got a nice clean line drawing that you'd like to work with, you can proceed to the next stage. This is honestly where most tattoo artists stop, and they just print a stencil and they figure the rest out on the skin. So what I want to teach you is a way that you can get to a really fast value study, meaning all of the shades of black, gray, and white, just so you know exactly what the values are going to be in the piece. And after that, I'm going to show you the fastest way to add color to your value study so you know exactly what colors you're going to use in the piece. So here's something you probably don't know. So it's actually possible to set your line drawings to a reference layer. And the reason you want to do that is because you don't want to add the values and the color to the same layer that your lines are on, because you need that so that you can print your stencil later, right? So to set the lines as a reference layer, you tap on the layer where the lines are. And just to keep things clean, I'm going to go ahead and name this layer Lines. So if you want to set the Lines layer to reference, you tap on the layer and look for the word reference. And now you can see that it says reference under where it says lines. Now let's show you what this actually does. I'll make a new layer. We'll call this layer values. So now we have a lines layer and a values layer. And just for good practice, I'm going to move the values layer below the lines layer. So the lines layer always stays on top. It looks a little cleaner when you do it that way. So now with our lines set as reference and our values layer, which is now completely blank below it, let's find out how this works. So just to make it easy to see what's happening, I'm going to choose a bright color, like say this one. Now, I can just drag from here and drop a color in. And if I tap continue filling, I can keep adding that color everywhere I want to. Got to be a little careful. If you tap the lines, it doesn't work, but just tap in those open spaces. Now here's something that could be going wrong when you do this. It's possible that you have some settings wrong. And so sometimes I'll tap and it looks like that and the color doesn't go all the way to the edge. So the way you fix that is actually by adjusting the threshold of this color drop tool. So I just messed it up, so let's see if it works now. Right, so lots of ugly white pixels along the edge, right? So to fix it, before I lift, I just move to the right, and you can see there's a threshold percentage that's going up. Currently it says 10%. I can keep going. It's starting to look pretty good now. Maybe I can go a little higher. Let's back up. So without lifting, I'll keep going, keep going. At some point, it just starts to jump out of the lines, like more than I wanted, like that. And that's where you know you've got too much. So just find that happy spot, just like that. Seems to be working pretty good. All right, so now with our threshold correctly set, we could just keep dropping color. So for this green color, this actually isn't the process. I just wanted to demonstrate how to adjust that threshold setting in case you had that problem. So let's look here. All of the color we just added is in this layer, totally separate from the lines layer. But because the lines layer was set to reference, when we did those color drops, it was looking at that layer but adding it to this other layer. And that's what we want. So I'll go ahead and tap here and clear this layer out. And now let me show you the real process to create your value study. What you want to do here is go find the Tattoo Smart gray values set. You have the neutral gray values, and then you have the warm, and then you have the cool. So just decide which one of those sets you want to use and maybe stick to it if you like. I usually want to start with just a neutral middle tone, something like this one here. And just tapping on that square made that color load. So at this point, I can do that. Just drop it in and tap continue filling. And I can put that value everywhere that I want to see it. Everywhere that I think that's the right value. It's easy to change it later. Let's say that I want to switch to something darker. I can just keep going and start tapping colors in. Oops, why did that happen? Let's adjust the threshold a little bit down. See, now I've changed the threshold setting and it's working again. So that's one of those places where I don't have a line. So for that, I can just kind of switch over here and maybe just grab this grainy soft airbrush. That's a little bit too big. I need something smaller. Let's use this to sketch. Yeah, okay. Make it a little smaller. So I can switch back and forth from that color dropping method to a more, traditional kind of painting or drawing method. And I can keep adding these values in. But I don't want to go too slow here, so I'm just trying to go fast. I'll keep dropping things in. Let's switch it up. Why did that jump? Adjusting the threshold once again. Tap continue filling. If you want to grab a tone you've already used previously, just long press and it will reselect that color. Yeah, I think I got them all. Now, back to the values layer, back to that tone. Tap continue filling. All right, so now we have some values everywhere, but they're not exactly my favorite values yet, and I want to go ahead and quickly adjust them. So one of the things I can do here is I can alpha lock this layer. So if I tap on the values layer and this menu appears and then I click alpha lock, now anything that I do will only cover what I've already done. So let me demonstrate. Let's go back to crazy bright green and I'll use a giant airbrush. Now, with this layer alpha locked, that green will not go outside of the pixels I've already colored in this layer. With that layer not alpha locked, take alpha lock off, and now we're just making a giant mess, right? So that's a really useful way that you can quickly adjust a layer. So let me show you what that looks like in practice. So I'm gonna take it back, turn alpha lock on, go back to my grays and choose let's go with a lighter gray tone. And I've got that soft airbrush and we're alpha locked. So now I can just sort of quickly add the highlight. Maybe something like that. Now I really want this hand to pop out because I feel like it's getting lost against that rib cage. So one of the things I can do here is create a selection. So I'm going to do a freehand selection where I actually have to trace around the edge of all of the fingers. So I need to be really precise as I do this, but I'll just carefully trace around each of these fingers. And the nice thing about this tool is if you need to lift up, you can, and you can sort of reposition your hand. And then finally, when you tap this circle at the end, it completes the selection. So now you can see this area is selected. And going back to that airbrush tool with that lighter color, now we can make it lighter and figure out exactly the right value for that piece, which I think that's probably gonna work. So undo the selection and let's do it again. So freehand selection, just trace around. And that can just be kind of loose over here because of the alpha lock. And head back to the airbrush. Lovely. Very nice. Okay, let's add a little bit of a soft glow on that cheekbone. Just start to render it a little bit. Oh, we can go ahead and add some streaks of lighter values in the hair. That always looks good. Look at that. So yeah, you can just play around with this as long as you want until you're totally happy with your value study. But the essential thing is that you have gray values everywhere. And just to be sure, you can change the color of the background here. Just tap on background and you can choose something like maybe one of these skin tones here. Put a skin tone behind it, and now you can see that there's nothing missing. We've got gray everywhere. There's no empty spaces here. But what if we want this to look like gray would look as a healed tattoo? Did you know about this? On the same values layer, you can change the layer blending mode. Currently it's set to normal, which is indicated by this N, but if you tap that, you can choose from one of these other layer blending modes, and the one that I like for this is called Multiply. So if you switch over to Multiply layer blending mode, all of those grays are going to look much more like a healed black and gray wash tattoo in the skin. And we use this technique a lot to simulate the way tattoos look on different skin tones. So as I change the skin tone, say I go darker, now we can see how that tattoo would work, and we can adjust our value plan based on the skin tone that we expect the client to have. So I think that's a really important thing to consider when you're designing a tattoo, is what is the skin tone of the client. So we'll switch over to something like this, and we can go ahead and adjust our values even further if we'd like to, just continuing to work in this method. I think I want to go a little bit lighter here in the skin, maybe in the face. I need to get over there. Right, okay, so let's get to an airbrush. Too big. Airbrush. Make it a little bigger. Yeah, that looks like about right. So I'm just trying to dial in the exact value that I really want to see for the skin. And later I'll add color to it. But to me, it's easier to work first in values and then figure out the color later. Maybe it needs to go a little darker down in there. Maybe I want to make another selection around that hand and darken some things up right here. Just push a little bit more contrast against that hand. Yeah, like that. Perfect. And this is why we need to think about value, right? Because the relationships between the focal points have to have a really, really high contrast, right? And you saw the way that hand wasn't popping off before, but now you can definitely see that hand against that rib cage. So I can spend as long as I want to on this value study process, and this is usually where I put the most effort into my design. But let's go ahead and color it in, and I'm going to show you a way that we can color it in just seconds. Okay, so pay attention. There's a lot going on that might be a little confusing in these next steps, but I promise you it's not that difficult. You just have to remember a few special settings. So what we're doing here is we are looking at the values that we've already applied, and we're adding color to them. And the way that we're going to do this is by using the overlay layer blending mode. Just a few moments ago, we learned about the multiply layer blending mode, but this overlay layer blending mode is the key to making these values change color. So let me show you how it works. Open up our layers. Let's add a new layer. It can just be above the values layer, but we'll change it to, let's call it red. We'll just start with everything that we're gonna make red. Sound good? Now, if I choose a red, I've got some red right here. Now I can drop a red and just fill the whole screen, right? We have red. That's not what we want. But what if we tap here and then we change this layer to clipping mask? There's a tiny arrow symbol pointing down that lets you know that this layer is now on a clipping mask to the layer directly below it. And as such, this red layer only applies to the pixels below it. If I turn those off, the red goes away. Now, the final step here in this process is to change the layer blending mode of the red layer from normal to overlay. And then, like magic, all of the values that are in our values layer are now showing through the red layer. And so while that red layer is on, we could go back, choose a dark gray and an airbrush, and do it on the values layer, and you could actually make a dark red appear using a dark gray, which has only been applied to the values layer. So this is infinitely editable. And another cool thing is that you can change this red all you want. So the way you change it is you head over here to this magic wand tool and you look for hue, saturation, and brightness. And then by moving hue, saturation, that makes it more gray if you go lower, and brightness changes how dark or light the color is, without ever changing your value study. So let's dial in something that we actually like here instead of that red. Maybe something like this kind of sepia tone. It's kind of a desaturated, still a little bit red, but kind of desaturated, and I'll move it around. And then there we have it. Our red layer probably shouldn't be called red anymore, but we'll leave it there just so you're not confused. It's kind of a brown, kind of a sepia. And so we've added color to the value study, but the value study still remains. It's always going to be there. And now we can just keep going. We can continue to adjust the red layer. We can do all our painting in that one layer if we want to and just change colors as much as we want. But a better way is to make a new layer for every single color that we're going to add. So that way we can go back to that hue, saturation, and brightness setting, and we can move those colors around. So I just like to think of things in terms of groups. Like, we've kind of got this base color. Maybe this is sort of the color of her skin. You know, it's maybe the color of the skeleton, but perhaps we want to start adjusting a little bit the color of the fish body here. And so we have some options. We could just erase using like maybe a soft airbrush eraser, and we can take the color back away from this part. And then we can just make a new layer, set that layer to clipping mask. Now it continues to still clip to the layers below it. It's like a stack. You can add as many of these as you want. We'll change this to, rename it to green. And now let's choose something kind of green. Maybe that one. Doesn't really matter because we can always change it. So I've got this really large airbrush, and we're just going to add some green. Let's make a little bigger. Now, because I haven't changed the settings on this layer yet, it just looks like pure green. But if you recall, what we need to do now is change normal over to, you guessed it, overlay. And now we can continue adjusting this green color. Looks pretty good. Now, without even leaving this green color, I'm just gonna throw in a little bit of a pink color just to show you how I can sort of blend colors in one layer. Maybe something like that looks pretty good. Yeah, I like that. And maybe let's go with a sort of cool color over here. Oh, I like that. We'll just let that kind of blend around and add that to there. And then finally, kind of liking the hair color that we have, but what would it be like if we added a little bit more color to that? So making this layer into a clipping mask, changing it to overlay. We're just gonna go ahead and do it ahead of time. And now let's start to add a little bit of cool tones into the hair. And then perhaps in this same layer, just to be quick about it, we can add some rosy colors to her cheeks. I'm gonna head back over to my gray layer and just start adjusting the actual values a little bit more, because now that I've added some color, I don't really love the values I chose. Let's see what this does. Oh yeah, now we can get a little bit darker. Let's push this. I'm really just using a darker gray here, but because it's underneath all this, we're seeing the effect of it in color. So here's another trick. You can adjust your entire values layer separately. I'll just duplicate it just to be sure, turn one of them off, and then head over here to adjustments and head over to curves. And using this tool, you can adjust the overall value plan and dial it in. adjusting the dark end, the light end, and the middle of everything. This method is all about getting to an end result that you're happy to tattoo from as quickly as possible. And if you have more time to spend, then you can do a lot more. And just to show you what it looks like if I put a little bit more time and effort into this, check out this other version that I already did. So I know you're probably ready to dive in and start using all these new tools that you've got, but I didn't want to leave you without showing you how you can add your design to the 3D model human arm that we're giving you. So let's head over and learn how the 3D model process works. Before we can add our art to a 3D model, we do want to make sure that it's all in one layer. So I need to flatten this and compress all of my layers into one, but I don't want to lose them in case I need them later. So I'm going to show you how you can first make a duplicate of all your layers and then flatten them out. Maybe I'll just take a moment and show you how you can group some layers together, and then it makes it really fast. So if I add a few new layers here, I'm just gonna show you the process of creating a group. So to make a group, tap on the first layer and then subtly move the layer to the right and the left really quick, and it turns darker blue. And it gives you this option to create a group. So I created the group, and now those layers can be controlled together. And I can just delete that group because they're blank layers. So here we have a group of all the layers that I used in this design, and I'm going to swipe and tap duplicate, which creates a whole duplicate of that group. And just the reason I wanted to do this is so I could keep all of my previous work in layers. So to compress all of these layers into one, I just pinch them together. And just to check, they're all now in one layer. And I will just minimize that. And so here's my art, one layer, and I will turn the background layer off. So now we have transparent pixels in the background, and we have my art right here. Now I just want to export this so that I can bring it over into the 3D model. To do that, head over to the wrench icon and look for where it says share and choose PNG. And a PNG file is going to allow that transparent background to remain. I'll save the image to my photo gallery, and the export is successful. Turn the background color back on so it's still there, and head over to the gallery. Now here's that 3D arm model that we gave you. So we can just choose a different skin tone, and now that that's here, we can drag it onto the arm. And we want to make sure that threshold setting is pretty high so that it applies skin tone all over the whole arm, and just check and make sure. It looks like we have a uniform skin tone. That's great. Now, there's a layer that's already named My Design, and this layer is already set to multiply layer blending mode because, as you know, if we want it to look good on skin, it needs to be set to multiply. I'll demonstrate the difference. So if I were to grab this bright green color here, and a soft airbrush and just start painting, because it's in multiply layer blending mode, this green color looks more accurate to the way it would look healed in human skin. But let's just quickly test. If we change this from multiply over to normal, you can see now we have an insanely bright green color that would never, ever, ever look like that in a real tattoo. So that's why we want all of our 3D art to be in a multiply layer blending mode. So I'll just switch that back. So that's fine. You could just color an arm green if you wanted to, but maybe you want to try to put some art on it. Most people, when they first get into these 3D models and they're opening it for the first time, they make a mistake with the way they use it. They do this. They try to add their art by clicking add and let's say insert a photo where we had it saved, and there she is. So it imports it, and then this happens. It's just this really, really funky thing with this bad outline and all this distortion and warping. And it honestly just looks weird, it looks terrible, and people think that this sucks. But they're just doing it wrong. So I'm going to show you the right way to do this. Let's just back out of that. And we'll just delete that layer because that was terrible. The trick is, when you go to add your artwork onto the 3D model, you actually want to add it in 2D mode. So if you head over here, click on the wrench, there's a new menu for 3D models that just says 3D. So tap on the 3D menu and then tap Show 2D Texture. Now what happens is it just flattens out all of the texture that applies to the model. So this is the palm of the hand. This is actually that little space where the arm was cut off the body that you don't need. And this is the arm all unrolled. Now the difference between Tattoo Smart's 3D models and those that you'll get for free on the internet is that ours actually have all of these amazing skin textures baked in. So you can kind of see the wrinkles on the fingers, the fingernail details. You can even see like the ditch of the elbow here is indicated. You can see where the elbow is. And there's some shading and some lighting built in. So you can kind of tell where you are in the model. And that's super helpful. So let's add our artwork the right way. So click on the wrench and then click Add, Insert a Photo. And here it was saved in our camera roll with a transparent background. It's going to import. And then we can just move it into place and just guess at this point where you want it on the sleeve. As long as it's within the boundaries of the skin texture, it'll all show. You can move it into place and then click here and it's there. But now we have to switch back to 3D to see what happened. So head back to the wrench, go to the 3D menu, toggle Show 2D Texture, and then you can see how it fits on the arm. It's looking pretty good. Maybe you'd like to move it a little bit. Maybe it's a little bit too big. So I'll head back, tap 2D Texture, tap that arrow tool, mess around with it a little bit. Now there is a fun feature here in Procreate where you can actually see the way that it's going to look on the 3D model at the exact same time that you're in 2D mode. So let me show you how to set that up. So head back over here to the wrench and go over to Canvas and then toggle on Reference. And this box appears, which is currently set to 3D. So you can see that 3D model arm there. And now when I make changes, as soon as I accept those changes, you can see that it's moving. You can constantly check and see how it's going here. Now, of course, you can draw directly on this. You can sketch on it. You can get layouts. And you can also sketch directly on the model itself. Let me close that window. Canvas, reference, okay. So if I want to make a new layer, or just use that layer we already had, choose a dark color, maybe choose some black. Go over here to my sketching tool, and this is where I can start to lay out other ideas and see whatever it is that I'm going to do on the model. Let's just say I want to start drawing something. I don't know what I'm going to draw here. I don't know. It's a mermaid. Maybe we'll draw some waves. Let's say we want to start playing around with, okay, she's going to have some finger waves. Now, drawing on the model itself, it's best if you just keep it kind of loose because, frankly, it's a little weird, but it will kind of help you get a sense of how things are going to look. And then you can head back over into the 2D texture mode and your drawing is still there and you can refine it from here. Let's take that away. Now I'd like to take you over and show you some of the 3D models that I've really done a lot of work on so you can see what's really possible with these. So I'm going to head out here and here's one that I was just working on. Now this is a really, really complicated 3D geometric design that I'm not really done with, but I just wanted to show you how you can lay out really, really complex things here in 3D. And the method that I used to do this was really quite complicated. There's a lot of different layers in here as I was figuring out the structure. I was doing a lot of designing, actually drawing on the model, trying to figure out where these lines needed to go and what was going to make it possible to have a design that completely wraps around the entire arm without ever breaking. And so this was like a huge challenge. But when you do it this way, you can really figure out how you could possibly make a tattoo that's much more complicated and just totally insane compared to what you can do when you just have to figure it out on the skin. Let me show you some more examples. Here's a fun one. So this is a design that I did for a full sleeve that I've actually already completed. As you can see, it fully wraps around the entire arm and we've got some really fun lighting going on here. So let me show you how to adjust the lighting. If you tap here and go to the 3D menu, You can edit lighting and environment. And these are the lights that I set up for this piece. So you can tap the puck and change the color of the light, change the intensity of it. So we'll just leave it really bright so it's intense and you can see the difference. When we head back to here, you can see that color applied. So now that you've seen what you can do on just a single 3D model of a sleeve, check out this entire package of 36 different 3D models that you can get on Tattoo Smart. This one's called Model Humans Advanced 3D Body Parts, and it contains male and female versions of multiple different model styles. Let me jump into Procreate and just show you what it looks like if you get it. So here are all the male options, and you've got the front and back torso, full torso, lower forearm, full sleeve. You can even get a full sleeve that includes the chest panel for those Japanese style arm sleeves with chest panels included. And then we've got a couple of different options for legs. And it also comes in this female version. And with this, you can complete your collection of Model Humans models on Tattoo Smart. All right, and before we go, let me just show you a few of the tattoo designs I've done for my clients using Model Humans. This is a back piece that I recently began. And so imagine what it's like to be a client and get to see exactly how the tattoo is going to fit on your body from multiple different angles. I know that for me as the tattoo artist, it makes all the difference in the world. And finally, check out this leg sleeve that I did. So real quick, before we go, check out what you can do if you want to export an animation of your design on the 3D model. Head to the wrench and then tap Share, and you'll see all of the animation export options here. I'll go with MP4. And you have some options here. You can change up to 4K quality, maybe make the animation go a little bit slower, adjust the zoom distance, and you can even check this box to turn the environment off. From here, I can just export it and it goes right to my camera roll, ready to go on social media. Guys, I know it's been a long day and we've already learned a ton, but before you go, I want to show you two things that are really going to blow your mind. These are just some of the things that are available on Tattoo Smart that you can use to enhance your tattoo workflow. This one here is called Matt Triano's Neotrad Birds. And Matt Triano is an awesome tattoo artist that specializes in Neotrad styles. So we went to him. He created this set of neo-traditional bird designs. As you can see, the lines are super clean, ready for you to render, ready for you to turn into great tattoos. Here's a harpy eagle, just beautiful. All right, Fine Line Floral is one of our best sellers, and it features just all of these different flowers that are done in a fine line style. So just pick one here. We'll go with this one here. It's peonies. And just look at that beautiful detail. These designs are just flawless. And this is the difference between Tattoo Smart's offerings and all the ones you're gonna find on Etsy and all the other crappy places. We actually hire some of the world's best tattoo artists to make this art, and we work directly with them to create collections of flash that are actually useful and won't make you look like a shitty tattoo artist. If you'll give me one more second, I wanna show off this crazy set called Cyberfluidics. And these brushes are for geometric artists, and I find them incredibly fun. I just want to show you what they can do. Check out what you can do with these Cyberfluidics brushes, just like this one. And they're pressure sensitive, so the harder you press, the thicker the pattern gets. Just look at that. So for the geometric artists out there, these kinds of tools are gonna really switch up your game. So guys, there's a ton of stuff on Tattoo Smart. We've been building it since 2016. So what I recommend is use the search bar, type in your favorite subject matter, your favorite styles, and just see what there is to offer. And if you have any questions, you can always reach us at support@tattoosmart.com. You can shoot me a DM on Instagram. My handle is @RussAbbott. Look forward to hearing from you, and enjoy free game.